glad you're back. Again, you're on the couch at Fidelity, and we're with Tim Flegel from RC Power Sports. And before the break, I mentioned we wanted to talk a little bit about some of the changes. And one of those big changes is in the motors themselves that power all these different. Now, there's two kinds. You've got your gas or your nitro,
Yep.
and then you've got your electric. But probably the biggest change is in the electric. So what's the difference in the motors today?
Well, they used to be, they had brushed motors where they had two little brushes riding on the armature on the inside of the motor. And then you had your windings on the armature and all that. Well, they've changed that to where they put the windings on the inside of the outer diameter of the can, and then they use what's called neodymium magnets, which are rare earth magnets, on the armature. These little motors can turn up to over 100,000 RPMs.
Wow.
Develop a tremendous amount of power, but as with all that, you're going to have a fuel source, whether it be electric or gas or nitro or whatever. And so they developed a few years ago the lithium polymer batteries,
Which would be a generation after
the nickel metal hydrides, which were supposed to be so great, which took the place of NiCad batteries, which are just horrible anymore compared to today's standards. And before that, we had lead acid batteries. So
there you go.
We went from lead acid to the NiCad batteries, then we went to nickel metal hydrides, which was the biggest and greatest thing 20 years ago, and now we're into lithium polymer batteries. And interesting, as far as the future is concerned, we're going to see something besides lithium polymer. I think it's still going to be a lithium, but it's going to be probably like lithium aluminum batteries. They have lithium ferrous batteries, which are LiFe batteries. So all of that has changed tremendously in these last few years.
Well, I think some of the battery things that are changing are like in your cell phones, your cars,
exactly.
And as they figure out how to do these on the small scale, and then they take them from a cell phone application, then they put them into an RC application, put them into a car application.
Or drones.
Or the drones.
Planes.
I'm amazed
exactly.
at the difference in the battery lives on those things.
Oh yeah,
That's
it's phenomenal.
we used to be able to get 4 minutes out of the latest and greatest batteries, and so you're when we raced the RC cars, the goal was you had a 4-minute race. And if you could figure out how to get your gears and everything to match to give you about 4 minutes and 10 seconds, you had the maximum out of there. Now you have batteries that run these same cars. How long do they run them now between?
Well, the low-end batteries are going to be 20 minutes. That's the short time. So we're looking, if we had a car that only ran 4 minutes, we knew something was wrong at this point in the game. I mean, by today's standards, if it only runs 4 minutes, we've got a problem somewhere. You either got a bad battery or bad motor or something's wrong. So yeah, that's like antique technology by today's standards.
That's what the difference is. If people that have played, and used the RC stuff, and they said, well, yeah, but you got to have 5 sets of batteries because you're only going to get 4 minutes out of it. If I want to play with it 20 minutes, and you're changing batteries, you spend more time plugging and unplugging and strapping them in.
Right. Yeah.
And now you get 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes
Easy.
right off the top on these things, and they run fast.
They are very fast. On a low end, some of the really small, cheap ones that are kind of indoor, 36 scale, they'll only run around 15 miles an hour. Now, they do make a 7th scale car. It's electric. Traxxas Corporation puts it out, and it's called an XO1. Now, it will run over in excess of 100 miles an hour.
Yes, and that's a what scale?
It's a 7th scale.
So that's about yay big.
And no, it's about a foot and a half long. It's over a foot wide. 4-wheel drive supercar. We've got, your industry standard is going to be around 30 miles an hour. We have a lot of cars that run 45, 50, maybe up over 60 miles an hour. My personal car that we use for demonstrations runs around 72 miles an hour.
And where do you run these things?
People run them in their backyards. They run them out on the streets. I shouldn't say that, but in all reality, they do. Then in a small one-way. Say if it's a dead
you're in a neighborhood, and
in a neighborhood, exactly. They have tracks that they run them on. We have the closest one now is in Crocker. They have a dirt oval track down there that they're doing some racing on, and some short course racing.
Well, I know we used to find parking lots. And you'd get out on the parking lots. And that was another thing I was going to ask you about, the controllers. Now, used to be that every controller had a frequency,
Yes.
And you would have a chip that you'd put in and out. But now I understand that they've changed all that to where you can do what?
Well, they've went from what was considered an AM radio. Now they're all digital radios that are 2.4 gigahertz. That whenever they're put together at the factory, they are assigned a unique identifier. So everybody's got a 2.4 gigahertz radio, but they don't bleed. Term is bleeding over to the other frequencies. They're all locked in on a specific frequency, and we just don't have that problem anymore at all.
Wow, I mean, I know it used to be that they had to, if you had 8 people racing, you had to make sure that everybody had a different frequency.
Well, yeah, exactly.
But now it's so your controller in your car or your truck or whatever it is.
And the odd thing is that we don't even think about it. We just turn stuff on and take off with it. We don't even worry about it. Yeah, it works just fine.
That's amazing.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's great. They've made things so simple and so much better. And much more reliable than what they used to be.
Well, and I think probably too, the prices are actually less expensive today.
Well, they
I know
are.
it used to cost. By the time you bought a good hobby class car and a good remote control, you could very easily spend $450, $500 just to get started.
Well, yeah, and then you had to put it together.
And you still had to buy 3 or 4 battery packs at $20 a piece.
Yeah. And, you really have to keep in mind, most of those were kits, and you had to put those together yourself.
Yes.
Now they're pre-assembled. You charge the battery up, plug it in, turn it on. You're ready to go. Yeah, just take off. And it's really neat. I mean, it just makes it so much easier.
Well, and even if you spent $300 or $400 on something today, when we were doing it, that was really more like spending $1,000 in yesterday's money.
Well, yeah, exactly. Because I started out 20 years ago with a helicopter. And it was a 60 size helicopter. It cost me $3,000.
Yeah,
very expensive. It had state of the art nickel metal hydride batteries. I think maybe they were NiCad batteries, but at any rate they were horrible. They were heavy. They were horrible. I had to be a nitro powered. In the old days, that's the only way you could get any power out of one. You had to run a nitro engine. That's the most powerful, compact power source that we had. Of course, now they're all brushless, and you can still get nitros, but the helicopter that I was flying was a large helicopter. It was 3.5 feet long and a large rotor span. Really neat, but it was still $3,000. And it was in a kit. It had like 3,000 pieces I had to put it together.
Had to put it all together.
Oh, yeah. It was fun, though.
Well, now the old airplanes and the helicopters, things like that, things that went up in the air, you had to have a license.
Right.
So do you have to have a license today to fly these things?
Not yet. Heavy emphasis on that word yet, because it is coming down the pike. The FAA is actually the one that's going to be controlling that. I've read through all the rules and regulations, and there's a reason they want everyone to have license, because people have done some pretty dumb things. And, unfortunately, it's the actions of a few people that the whole world judges you upon that. Mm-hmm. And one of them, you're flying drones next to an airport. They came within, 40 feet of a airplane on takeoff up at Lambert Field, which is like a really big number. You're supposed to be within 5 miles of that airport, flying one of those drones. And then...
they're talking about putting geofences on the technology. Because, even the simplest ones like this, They work off satellites for positioning, GPS.
Some of them do, yeah. They have GPS sensors on them, which is it really helps. I know one of the corporations, DJI, actually has on their GPS fence, you can't fly them at an airport, which is really kind of odd, because if your local flying club is at an airport, you can't fly it there unless you bypass that technology.
Yeah. Well, so I want to make sure that our viewers know what you sell. So you sell cars.
We sell cars.
Entry-level cars to the super fast.
That is exactly right.
You have kits?
Yes, we have kits.
I know you've got stock bodies where you can paint them up any way you want to.
Oh, yeah. You can paint them, customize them however you want, tires, wheels. We have a good selection of trucks, four-wheel drive, two-wheel drive. We have airplanes, helicopters, quadcopters, which are the really, really big thing right now. Mm-hmm. Everybody has quadcopters. Just an interesting side note, a gentleman I talked with at one of the big suppliers went to Nuremberg, Germany at a toy show this year, and he said on the exhibit hall everything was quadcopters. That is the hottest item right now, and we have a pretty good selection of those, and they go anywhere from $40 all the way up to $1,100 right now.
And that just depending on your use, what you need it for.
Well, exactly.
Well, and people think, well, they're just toys, but you know, my son borrowed mine the other day. He lives out in the country. He's got a house that sits up on a hill. He's got a very high pitch, real steep pitched roof.
Yeah.
And you can't climb on it.
Right.
And he wanted to inspect his fireplace top to make sure the screen wasn't all plugged up or anything,
Right.
and make sure that no bird nests on it. And so we took the quadcopter out there and we flew it up and we went all the way around it, came back down, looked at the footage, and he did his inspection and never had to get on a ladder.
Well, you know, I'll add one to that, and you really have to stop and think the application of quadcopters and the good that they can do. Okay, now a friend of mine went down to Texas. They had a windmill. The blades in those windmills, the wind-generating windmills, the blades, each blade is 90 feet long.
Yep, I've seen them on trucks.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
amazing.
They're huge. Okay, well, they're made out of carbon graphite, and they're rigid, but they're also susceptible to cracking. So you have to do inspections on these. Well, how are you going to get 90 feet up there? You can't get close enough with a helicopter to, you know, inspect
Too dangerous,
this. It's
right.
too dangerous, and you physically can't because you got the blades of the helicopter. So he actually took a drone and with a camera on it and flew within just a couple feet from it, from one end to the other, and they did their inspections that way. So there's going to be a whole new industry that's going to be spawned off the creation of quadcopters.
Yeah, that's pretty. It is amazing. So there's a lot of good. They're not just toys. You can use them for inspections. You can use them for all the different things, but you can also just have fun with them. You can
Exactly.
race them. You can make it a family sport and go out there and be competitive with the kids and just enjoy those things.
Exactly.
You've got a lot of stuff there. So tell me where you're located.
We're on Highway 72, about 3 blocks east of Highway 63. So our address is 100 East State Route 72 in Rolla, Missouri.
All right. And I know that if they want to get a hold of you and they say, hey, do you have this part? What's the number that they can call?
It is area code 573-426-3520.
Well, I know that at RC Power Sports, Tim, you have a lot of fun stuff in there. That you're all about fun.
Yes.
And people need to stop in there, check things out. And so you've got stuff for those that have a smaller budget and those that they don't care. You can take care of anything in between.
Yeah.
And again, the nice thing is what you sell, you also have parts to fix in case somebody does it. They don't have to replace the whole unit.
Exactly.
Most of the time, they can just buy a piece here, a part there,
Yeah.
and get it going again.
And I also want to put a little note in there that we are also a very family-oriented type store and atmosphere. This is a hobby that the whole family can get involved in, and it's a great bonding, family bonding activity. So we really try to promote that as well.
Well, I appreciate it. Tim, thanks for being on the couch today.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on the couch today. We've been with Tim Flegel from RC Power Sports right here in Rolla out on 72. Thanks for being our sponsors that make this possible. We appreciate Alyssa's and we appreciate Angie from By Design, Guaranteed Plants, Friendly Firearms. Thanks for joining us today. God bless and have a great day.